Next up, we're going to hear a little bit about how Google is reaching consumers and measuring impact and trying to improve campaigns. And here to share some of their latest thinking and work on this is Mike Clarke. And Mike is the head of brand management and insights at Google. And that's where he helps brand advertisers make their advertising more accountable, both in the digital spectrum and beyond. So please welcome Mike Clarke.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I thought there was going to be a Canadian joke in there. And I think that people already stole a bunch of those earlier. That's usually my shtick. I'd like to thank the folks in marketing for putting a picture of me from about 15 years ago, standing on a train overpass, texting, thinking about the future of brand measurement and digital advertising. So what I want to talk about today is something called Micromoments. And then I want to talk about how we actually go about measuring those micromoments in a really flexible and agile way. What we think of as micromoments are those little moments throughout your day, and as we have all these different platforms and all these different digital touch points integrated into people's lives, how do people use those in their everyday lives to actually go about completing tasks, entertaining themselves, that sort of thing. So an example of a micromoment is, again, I'm from Canada, so I came to the Bay Area and I said, wow, this is weather utopia. I'm not going to turn on my furnace for an entire year. And we'll see what my wife says about that. I didn't have to do that until this week. And because I work in an office and I work on brand measurement, I'm not the most handy guy in the world, even though I pretend that I am. And so what I did was I went to go and see if our air filter in our furnace was working okay. And so I snuck off with my phone. I checked a how-to video of how to actually go and clean that out so my kids wouldn't get sick. Didn't tell anybody about it, but I found a really great video of that exact type of filter, and I did it, no problems. So that's an example of having a little digital moment in your life where you can actually go and accomplish some really great things throughout those little parts of your day. If you think of your experience as a brand in this regard, all of those things that you'd like to do, generate awareness about your brand, make sure that you're in the consideration set, throughout this purchase journey, make sure that you're available at that point of purchase when people are, engaging in a moment and you're ready to buy something, and also when you want to make sure that you're increasing loyalty amongst those folks as well. So I'm going to show you some of the different categories of moments and the way that we think about these at Google. The first is I want to watch what I'm into moments. So these are the ones where you go and you want to get inspired, you want to get entertained. And then we know that 53% of online video watchers, they actually want to be getting inspired and entertained. So it's a really important category, as you can imagine, on YouTube. The second is I want to know moments. So this is actually going out and educating yourself on something or going to just explore. Nearly 70% of those millennials that we've talked about the last couple days agree that they can find a YouTube video on anything that they want to learn. So YouTube is a really big platform of possibilities, lots of great content, user-generated or otherwise. People know that they can go to YouTube to learn and know about stuff. A closely related topic, and what I spoke to you about related to my furnace problem, was going out and seeking instruction. So searches related to how-to are up 70% year over year on YouTube. So people are increasingly coming to YouTube to go and learn how to do something. So that's really important to think about as a marketer, and also when you're measuring. And the last one is I want to buy moments. And this is a really important statistic. 18 to 34-year-olds say YouTube is the best place to learn about a product or service that interests them. So if you think about, whether you're going to buy a new smartphone, a new car, really any category where it's a bit of an involved purchase, people are going there and they're saying, I want to do research about this brand. YouTube is a really great place for me to do that. So when you're thinking about injecting in these different moments, we have a framework where we want to make sure that we can measure these in a really agile way. And there's three categories that we think of: see, think, and do. The first piece is, were we actually able to get in front of someone and give them the ability to be impacted by our ads? The second is think. Were we actually able to go and change their perception? And the last is do. Did they actually go and take action as a result? So if you think about how those relate to all those different moments in people's lives, were we able to go and influence them? And then do we have the right mechanisms to actually go and measure whether our brand was doing the work that we wanted it to do? So I want to talk about a couple products that we have and actually tell you about some new products today that fits squarely in the see and think category. The first one, I want to actually restate a couple launches that we had quite recently in the viewability space. So we have a product at Google, which is our owned and operated viewability solution called ActiveView. And what ActiveView is a technology baked right into our ad tech technology platform, where we've built our viewability against the MRC standard of 50% of the ad needs to be seen for 1 second for display and 2 seconds for video. And we think that this is really important to get people to rally around this hot topic of viewability. I know that you guys have heard a lot about viewability over the last couple of days, whether you like it or not. We think it's really important building block for generating interest in brands and getting people to act on brands. ActiveView is really great because we've been able to look at things cross-platform. It's a tagless solution. It's really responsive and really quick. It gives you real-time data. And in the case of our Google Display Network, we can actually transact on that data. So when you go to the Google Display Network, 100% of those ads that you buy are going to be viewable. So this is part of the vision of where we're going from a viewability standpoint. Video is an incredibly important topic as it relates to viewability. And we actually released some benchmarks about 3 or 4 months ago where we found that 46% of ads that were video were viewable according to that MRC standard. And when we looked at YouTube, it was 91%. So a couple things that you need to think about from there. You need to make sure that you're in an environment that is very focused on a large player, is very immersive and viewable in nature. Otherwise, you won't have the ability to actually go and influence those people. While we really are behind the MRC standard, and we think this is an incredible starting point for everybody to rally around from a viewability standpoint, we've actually started to add supplementary metrics because we know that we want our advertisers to have a lot of flexibility when they work with their advertising. And viewability is really important to a lot of people that we work with. So we've started to add metrics such as viewable time. So in DoubleClick, on the buy side, we actually have the ability to see average view time by ad baked right into the platform. That was announced in August. And last week, we had a really exciting announcement. At Google, we have a philosophy where we really want to encourage third-party objectivity and working really closely with some of the partners that we think are really doing great work from a measurement standpoint. And so what we did was we partnered. Sorry, guys. We partnered on third-party viewability verification in YouTube with 4 really important partners in the space: Moat, Integral Ad Science, DoubleVerify, and ComScore. And we're going to have more details of a product rollout early in the year so that we can actually move the industry forward from a third-party standpoint while also continuing to push forward work on our ActiveView product from within Google. So really what we're trying to do here, again, is really encourage this industry coming together on viewability, but taking advantage of some of the competitive advantages of our platform to really push the limit on the ActiveView side of things. And so what I'm announcing today is a couple new features in DoubleClick. The first one is ActiveView optimization. And so historically, when you've wanted to go and optimize your campaigns from a viewability standpoint within DoubleClick and also on many other platforms, is we look at the historical average of viewability on that site and make decisions based off of that in the platform. And the issue with that is it artificially restricts the inventory that you have access to. And so what we've started to do is predict impression by impression whether that inventory is going to be viewable or not. And so we take over 50 different signals to do this. That includes URL, time of day, position on the page, the type of category that the page is on. And this is a really common problem that is really artificially increased CPMs. And we don't think that we need to be punitive as it relates to viewability. And we think this is a really good opportunity for people to go and optimize against viewability and transact on it. So the second thing I want to announce today is working across all of the different platforms that our publishers really care about, and creating an ecosystem of viewability across all the different screens. And so what we're announcing today is active view for mobile apps in DoubleClick for publishers and the DoubleClick Ad Exchange. And what this allows you to do as a publisher within the DoubleClick ecosystem to say, okay, I have a mobile app, I'm able to assess my ad inventory within that mobile app from a viewability standpoint. So what we've done here is really making sure that we're covering all the different properties that our partners care about, and really taking seriously this cross-platform adoption of viewability standards. And so while we know that viewability is really important, I want to make sure that you guys understand we really take seriously the business outcomes that follow from the chance of people actually seeing this ad. And so I actually gave a talk at the Audience Measurement Conference a few months ago in New York for the ARF, and I covered brand lift in depth. But for those people that don't know much about brand lift, what it is a survey-based and keyword-based measurement platform where you can report on recall, awareness, consideration, favorability, and purchase intent, and brand interest, measured by surveys and organic search activity, respectively. And we do this by running a causal test between video and display ads, and measuring the lift in each of those different categories. And this allows us to do some really interesting things in terms of answering questions, such as what demo is driving the highest lift in my brand awareness, and is my campaign inspiring consumers to search for my brand or my products? And this is a really great example of something that moves fast to intervene in those micro moments and measure them. We've run tens of thousands of studies over the past year since launching Brand Lift. We can run on really small campaigns, and the idea is to have that as a constant measurement rather than something just attached to really big campaigns. So what we did with all of that data from those tens of thousands of studies that we ran was started to look at the intersection between brand lift and some of the viewability and engagement metrics that we'd been talking about earlier. And so a couple of insights that we found was the additive effect of audio and video really increases ad recall. But a really interesting piece is lift in brand interest, so people actually going to search for your brand after being exposed to your ads on YouTube. When you put audio and video together, you see a really dramatic additive effect. So we know that having that really immersive experience of digital video with something like TrueView, where you actually select if you want to watch that video or not, is really important as it relates to business metrics. And then the last one that I'm going to show you today is, again, doing a meta-analysis of all those brand lift campaigns and looking at viewability as they relate to brand awareness and consideration. And viewable time on screen, the longer you view the ad, you get a dramatic increase in those two different brand metrics. And that has a couple of really important implications. The first is you got to make sure that your creative is good. You can use free tools such as YouTube Analytics and other tools to make sure you can see whether you're advertising or your organic content on YouTube when people are dropping off from your creative, and making sure that you're making decisions based on that. You can also compare it to your industry benchmarks as well. And the second piece is make sure that you choose a platform that's incredibly immersive and you know that people are going to be engaged in your content. As a big player, allows people to hop right in and really get into your content. It's really important that you make great platform decisions as well. So that's all I had today, and I just really want to make sure that you think about those micro moments, those little digital touch points where people are going to be influenced by your brand throughout the day. Take advantage of those moments, but also start to use measurement that gives you the ability to measure against all of those in a really nimble and agile way. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mike.